I know this year has probably felt like an eternity of hell and bad news, but with it also came a massive amount of anime. Join me as I count down my top 15 series of the year. My name is Deepak Kai, and this video is about anime in 2020. As I mentioned earlier, I will be showcasing my personal 15 picks for anime series of the year. Of course, this excludes movies and OVAs, and I'll also be excluding B-Stars, as the Netflix international release date might have been this year. However, it was released way back in fall 2019 for our friends in Japan. With that being said, let's get started. The Millionaire Detective Balance Unlimited is an original anime by Studio Cloverworks following our rich protagonist Daisuke Kanbei. He's partnered with the ever-so himself Haru Kato, and the two don't quite hit it off at first but turn into quite the buddy cop team. The dynamics between these two are wild, and coupled with the intense mystery of the story and Cloverworks' animation, I honestly thought it was amazing. The boys are back at it again in the new season of Haikyuu. After 4 grueling years, we finally got a continuation to the intense Shiro Torizawa match, and production ID did not fail to impress. Following on from the previous season, our boys over at Karasuno start preparations for the Inter-High, and boy did we get some fantastic matches. The story kept me on edge with every set, and I can't wait for the next season. It's quite a rare case to see an anime series follow a poorly received arc with such a well-praised one. Such was the instance for the Alicization arc of Sword Art Online. The final installment in the Alicization story took a turn for the hectic, with Kirito's friends wielding godlike powers to take on the most powerful foe they've ever faced. I'm not usually one for power fantasies, but the thrilling final part of Sword Art Online clearly caught my attention. Speaking of catching my attention, Tonikawa Over the Moon for You certainly caught the eye of many. I did read the first volume of the manga beforehand, as Viz Media had released it a month prior to the anime's release, so I know what I was getting into. The series certainly puts a spin on the rom-com genre, as it starts off with our main couple married. The comedy is absolutely hilarious, and the romantic moments between Nasa and Tsukasa are certainly to die for. The anime adaptation brought even more fame to the acclaimed hit series manga. As far as hit manga series go, one of the biggest cult classics of our generation finally received an anime adaptation with the winter season's Dorohedoro. Mappa's reign on 2020 started with this gore-filled fantasy series about Lizardman Kaiman, who seeks to find the sorcerer that turned his head into that of a lizard. As low as it is on my list, I honestly thought that Dorohedoro brought some of the most interesting characters in such an interesting world. Many fans of Kyu Hayashida's manga were concerned about the anime being animated in CGI, especially considering the manga's art style. However, Mappa stepped up and delivered a wonderfully frightening horror series. When talking about horror series, we can look no further than the When They Cry series. Higurashi Go finally brought back the franchise we all know and love. What we all thought was a remake, especially after seeing the trailer and the first episode, turned out to be a crazy sequel, while at the same time keeping that remake status. Keiichi and the girls are back at it again, in the strange town of Hinamizawa, and this time, Rika has a lot more to deal with than ever before. As far as cult classics go, this requel of Higurashi is a brilliant addition to the When They Cry franchise. Now, I love reading romantic comedies and seeing them adapted into anime. This is no different for the Oregairu series, which aired its 3rd and final season this year. After 5 long years, we finally get to see the conclusion of Hachiman's love triangle. Studio Fio and Wataru Watari closed off the story wonderfully, and I honestly couldn't have asked for a better ending. Also, Haruno will still remain one of my favorite fictional characters of all time. We didn't really get as many comedy series this year as I would have liked, but thankfully Winter Season's A Destructive God Sits Next to Me gave us the comedy fix that we all needed. I'm not gonna lie, this series made me laugh extremely loud on multiple occasions. Seeing the story of Seiri Koyuki, who just wants to be left by himself, is truly heartwarming. That is, until the Chunibyu God of Destruction Hanadori Kabuto decides to interfere in his life. Seiri just wants to be together with his love interest Sumiso Kotoko, but the ever-so-lovable cast of characters gets in his way. This quirky comedy series is definitely worth the watch, so I recommend you check it out. I haven't really included that many sequels in this list, but the second season of Kaguya-sama Lovers War was impossibly brilliant. Following the crazy antics from the first season, the student council gang returned to put their hectic story and comedic personalities on display once more. This season adapted one of my favorite arcs from the manga, the Ishigami Past arc, and I honestly cried reading it and once again while I watched it in its glorious animated self. With a third season on the way, it's safe to say that this popular rom-com will be around for a very long time. Continuing from the sequels train, David Production gave us another stellar season of Fire Force. The secrets of the pillars have started to unravel in this season of Shobutai, and it's even worse than the people of the 8th could have ever imagined. I think that even with the story getting better and better, David Production really stepped up the animation this season, animating some of the best manga panels to the greatest of their ability. I've spoken about Kakushigoto at length in a previous video, but this video just further proves how much I actually do love this anime. Koji Kometa's works are usually really good and this is no different. If you do want to watch that video and my thoughts on it, I'll leave a link to that video in the description. Now, I always love seeing a Jun Maeda work, especially his collaborations with Key. Angel Beats and Charlotte were favorites of mine, and when The Day I Became a God was announced, I was over the moon. I knew that heartbreak was coming, but this was incredibly sad, even for me. The story of the god of omniscience Hina and the teenage Yota Narukami, who have 30 days until the end of the world, is both an hilarious but incredibly heartbreaking one. If you enjoyed Clannad, then this Jun Maeda work is definitely for you. I think that the biggest surprise of 2020 was certainly Wit Studios' Great Pretender. A series about a group of con artists doesn't exactly sound appealing at first glance, but this anime was absolutely fantastic. Makoto Edamura seems to be Japan's best con man, but when he himself gets conned by an international conman, Lord Theory, he finds himself joining his group of conmen forcibly. This entire series is split into 4 cases, each one is brilliant as the last. Studio Wit did a brilliant job with this show. Everything from the music to the animation is flawless, and I would love to see a second season. ReZero, starting life from another world, returned after 4 years of being off air, and it certainly didn't disappoint. After the events of the first season, Subaru and Emilia find themselves traveling along the way back to the Mathers mansion when he finds out almost nobody can remember Rem. He goes on a quest to find Roswell to see if he knows of a way to reverse this. The season is much darker than the previous one, and Subaru goes through a worse hell than before as he struggles to find himself. The fact that this is only the first half of the season is absolutely insane, and I can't wait to see what the second core has to offer. Before I reveal what I picked for number 1, here is some honorable mentions that did not make the list. I will not be including sequel series, though the 2nd and 5th seasons of Ascendance of a Bookworm and Shokugeki no Soma were really good. Smile Down the Runway was an interesting series about the world of fashion and modeling. Demon King Academy was a power fantasy show that was incredibly wild and I need a second season. Rent a Girlfriend gave us a different take on the rom-com genre, especially with the college twist. Yashahime Princess Half Demon brought back some mad nostalgia, doing well as an Inuyasha sequel, and finally Tower of God was a madly popular adaptation of the webtoon. I do think that if you haven't seen the webtoon yet, you should give it a read. And my number 1 undoubtedly goes to Studio Mappa's Jujutsu Kaisen. This horror anime is absolutely mind-blowing. As a mega fan of the manga, I have to say that Mappa blew my expectations out of the water. Each scene, from the curse exercise to the domain expansions, has been on point, and I can't wait for the second quarter to start, not to mention the killer opening and ending themes. This is 100% my favorite anime of 2020. Well, that's been my list for the year of 2020. I do believe that most of my list is biased, but I do also think that we got a massive amount of good anime this year. Thank you for watching. My name is the Black Reaper Kai, and this has been Anime 2020.